Welcome back to the Lucid Living Podcast. And if this is your first time, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy to have you aboard. My name is Andrew Larkin. I'm an actor, model, performer, storyteller, breathwork coach, and today I'm going to be your host, your guide for today's podcast episode. All right, my friends, before we dive into this very exciting conversation we're about to have with this amazing guest, we're going to do some grounding, some deep, intentional breathwork session. We're going to do 3 rounds of a 4-second box breath. So that's going to look like an inhale for 4, a hold for 4, an exhale for 4, and a hold for 4. And remember, as we inhale, we're going to inhale through the nose. And as we inhale, the belly's going to expand. The diaphragm's going to go outwards like you're filling up a water balloon. And then you're going to hold it at the top for 4. And then you're going to exhale out the mouth. And that belly's going to come back to your center. And then you're going to hold at the bottom for 4. And as we do this, listen to the breath, focus on the breath, brings you back to this present moment, can ground us, whether this is your morning, your afternoon, your night. Bringing mindfulness and stillness throughout the rest of your day is always an amazing practice. So if you're ready, ground yourself in this moment, give yourself a minute, and I will be counting along. So just follow my words and focus on the breath. And let's begin with an inhale through the nose in 3, 2, 1. Inhale through the nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. Exhale out the mouth. 3, 2, 1. Hold it. 3, 2, 1. Inhale through the nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. Exhale out the mouth. 3, 2, 1. Hold it. 3, 2, 1. Last one through the nose, big belly. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. And exhale out the mouth. 3, 2, 1. Hold it. 3, 2, 1. Now return your natural breathing. Take a sip of water if that's what feels right in this moment. Beautiful. All right, my friends, we have a very exciting conversation for y'all today. We have an amazing guest, and our guest today, she is a manifestation and abundance frequency coach, a leader, she's a daughter, a mother, a podcaster, a spiritual practitioner, and a true badass babe. We have Kelly Pender. Welcome, Kelly.
Thanks for having me. What an intro. I love it.
Absolutely. And for those of you who don't know, this is so exciting for me because this is such a new friendship that we just created and manifested, I like to say. So I met Kelly and her beautiful mother about a week or 2 ago. It was 2 weekends ago on a Friday night where they came into the restaurant that I was working at. And it was so funny because I had just gotten some pretty tough news where things were shifting in my life and I was kind of confused. I was having a weird day. And I always say, like, when I'm working and serving, some days, sometimes the flow is natural and good and it's uplifting and you're meeting people. Sometimes it's kind of static and stagnant. And when those days happen, I'm always like, I just need one person, just one table to kind of not make it like fill my soul, like lift me up in that way. And I always kind of sometimes find it and I get it at the end. And my very last table Friday night was Kelly and her mom. And then she said she was a manifestation coach. And just, we didn't even dive super deep, but just feeling your energy and just the way that you showed up in your light, it was really cool. And I was like, and then you said we should connect. And then I started diving deeper into the work that you do. And I'm just like, yo, this is amazing. And I just I resonate so deeply with everything that you do. And I'd love for us all to learn more about how you got to where you are in your story and your light and just shine that love and light on the world, what you're doing. And I was just so blessed to have you.
Yes. Oh, I know. And you know what's so cool? I actually wasn't even supposed to be there that night.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah. So like last minute plans fell through with my mom and her friend. And she was like, "You want to go to this concert with me? And then we'll go out to eat." And I was like, "Hell yeah, let's go." Mom's night out. So it was a very last minute thing. So it was cool. Divine timing. And I love connections because you're right. You're supposed to meet or you're meant to meet people and be in their energy, when needed.
Mm-hmm.
So love that we connected. Love that we're here. Yeah. Where do you want me to start with
Let's
how I got
start.
into this work?
So let's start with just the present moment. Where are you at right now? Physically,
Mm.
location, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. How are you in this just season in life?
Yes. So I just gave birth 4 months ago. So I'm
Congratulations.
Thank you. to my second, a girl. And what's cool about her is that she was born at 4:44 p.m. So she's my
Yeah.
angel number girl. Yeah,
Mhm.
she knows what's up. And so I'm in this like new mama season. I mean, even though it's my second, it's still like it's a rebirth. It's a rebirth every time you give birth. And so I'm in this season of releasing old ways of being that aren't serving me in my life, in my business. And I'm just letting things be really easy and easeful. And anything that feels fun and alive and active is a, can I swear on this podcast or
Oh,
no?
absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. I forgot to ask.
I forgot to say
Anything that feels alive and active is a fuck yes. Anything that feels like heavy and feels like I should be doing it because someone else should is a fuck no. So that's where I'm at.
yeah.
And that weaves into everything physically,
Mm.
spiritually, emotionally, and energetically.
I love that. That's amazing. All right, now
Yeah.
we're gonna bang out the past. So I always find every time I meet anyone, and I think went through my personal development journey, it really starts off with childhood. It starts off with your environment. We talked, about human design, astrology, all those elements that lend to who you are and who you become. And I always find it starts off kind of like with your parents. And I feel like when we're in middle school, we're kind of, we haven't stepped into our identity yet, so we're really just mirrors of our parents, and then we start creating our own identity and finding what we don't like, going through our ups and downs, our trials and tribulations. So if you want to just share in your own words, what is the story of Kelly so far, from the beginning to the middle to the twists and turns? I know there's this journey, especially the spiritual journey, has a lot of twists and turns throughout it, and I'd love just in your own words to just share how you got here today.
Yeah. So I would say my first memory of like spiritual world and just, things that I love started when I was, to my memory, when I was 9. And I just was so into crystals and like spells. Spells were my jam. And I remember buying these spell books, or my mom bought them for me. And I just loved these spell books. And I would go out in the woods and do these spells and like bury them under the trees. And I was like, this is so amazing. And I remember my mom was like, the catapult into my
Mhm.
spiritual realm. I remember she took me to a holistic expo, which like where we are right now in Pennsylvania, in like the Pottstown area.
Mhm.
How many years ago was that? 25 years ago. It was very rare to have like holistic, right? No one really knew what that was. But I remember an aura photographer being there. And I was like, this is the most magical thing of my life. You can capture your aura. This is amazing. And so it sparked when I was like 9, went to that fair when I was maybe 11 or 12. And then from there, you start to get a little bit older and you start to come around other people and you start to be called weird for the things that you're into. And so I remember just being myself and just being like, here I am. This is what I like to do. This is how I like to dress. This is how I like to be. And I know like in an elementary school, you get called weird and whatnot, but I have this very like strong memory in high school where I was, and I've shared this on my podcast before, because this is what made me switch into my safety identity, which is when you shift out of your soul essence of who you truly are and how you're meant to live and lead your life. And you go into safety mode to protect yourself.
Mhm.
And so I remember in high school, I was walking down the halls and I had on this new skirt. My hair was like curly and big, and I had these boots on, and I was just like, I'm loving life. Here we go. Confident queen, love it. And then this girl down the hall was like, slut, so loud, directed towards me. It was like a scene from a movie where people were like turned and all looked at me.
Mhm.
And in that moment, I made this decision that it was not safe for me to dress the way I want to dress, be who I am, and to be seen.
Mhm.
Right. So from that moment when I was like, I don't know, 14 or 15, I started operating out of my safety identity, protecting myself from being seen, protecting myself from being criticized, bullied, whatever. And what I love about that moment is that actually weaves into the work that I do today, because so many of us operate out of our safety identity. So many of us are protecting ourselves from where we're meant to go and who we're meant to be in our lives, in our business, in every area of your life. And so my journey from then until 6 years ago was like this. It was like, I'm going to be seen. I love who I am. Like, be true to yourself. Yes, yes, yes. And then safety identity. Keep
Mm,
yourself safe. Keep doing things that you're supposed to do in your life, societal programming, like go to college, do this, check off all these to-do lists, right? And
mhm,
I would start to do what I wanted to do and then veer away. And so finally, maybe 10, 12 years ago, I went to, no, I think it was 15 years ago. Whatever. I went to Thailand,
mm,
like totally off the cusp of what you're supposed to do after college, right? It was like a year or two after college. I went to Thailand and I explored the world and it was amazing. And then after that, I decided to get out of PA and move to Colorado. And that was amazing.
mm,
And I started to be led by my soul desires. And I would tap in, tap out, tap in, tap out. And so I was led to do a yoga teacher training and I was totally in, and then I would tap out. And then what happened is I started to teach yoga full time. Like I was being led. That was my goal. I made an amazing career out of being a full-time yoga teacher. Like it was amazing. And so I thought that that was like my end all be all path. Little did I know that there was so much more in store. And so I thought I was plugged in. I thought I was listening to my soul callings. But what was happening is when I was teaching yoga classes, I would hear these like downloads or messages that was like meant for the students or meant for people practicing, and it had a lot to do with self-worth. It had a lot to do with confidence, with being who you are. And I remember teaching the yoga class and being like, no, Kelly, they don't want to hear that. They're here to like shut down the noise and be in their bodies. They don't want to hear what's coming through. Just keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself. Right. So at the end of yoga classes, I would have some people say after and talk to me. And I would just be like, you know what? Fuck it. Just share with them what was coming through. And I would share, and they would be like, how did you know that? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just receiving messages and I'm sharing it. I didn't know at the time that that was channeling,
mm,
right? And like allowing ourselves to be the source of wisdom and messages and guidance. And so I started little by little to weave the channeling into my yoga classes, and I was getting amazing feedback. And again, I was being led to channel, being led to guide, being led to allow people, I work with women, but to allow people to really expand into their soul purpose and mission. I didn't know that at the time. But because I was like half in, half out, I always feel that spiritual awakenings find you at the most perfect time. And so in that season, my husband and I were, I don't like this word, but we were quote unquote trying to get pregnant. I did. I had a miscarriage, a molar pregnancy. It was terrible. I wasn't medically allowed to get pregnant for 10 months in case abnormal cells turned to cancer. So it
mm,
was very scary and very like, what do I do with this grief and these feelings? And I decided to feel them. I
mhm,
decided to feel my feelings. And from there, I allowed myself just to be like, I don't want to be in this old way of doing and of living where I'm keeping myself safe. I'm ready to do something that's new. I'm ready to fucking go there. And then from there, I started my podcast because I knew that something was coming through and it needed to be spoke
mhm,
into a microphone. Like I knew that. I started my podcast. I started my Badass Babe community, which is my spiritual manifestation membership for women.
mhm.
And I just launched everything that I do now from that spiritual awakening.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. That's
To
amazing.
wrap it all up in a nutshell.
Yeah. That's so amazing. It's so funny too in the beginning of the journey talking about the expo and the aura. So my mom is pretty much like the reason, like really a catalyst for me getting into this space.
I
She's been
love
on a
that.
spiritual journey for like 30 years. Probably even honestly, it's a lifetime, right? And
Mhm.
she would go to the expo. She would have her crystals. She would do body work on people. And she brought me when I was a kid. I don't have the greatest memory of it, but she would tell stories about that. And she still has photos of the aura, like aura photos of like her friends, and
I love it.
you can fully see the orb of light around individuals. And there was this one time we used
Yeah.
to live in Phoenixville, like on Valley Forge Mountain. So we grew up in like the woods, basically. Our backyard, we could walk down this path to go down to this amazing hike and to fresh water. And our front yard was a great forest as well. But we had this massive tree in our backyard, and one day it fell on our house, and the only damage it did was one branch that like made like this big of a hole in our house. It was amazing how there it could have been so much worse, but the roots that came out of that tree was so alive and so vibrant. My mom took We have this great window in our living room. She took a photo through it, and a pessimist and not a non-believer would say it's just the reflection, but it looks like an angel is being ripped out of this, like was released from this tree. So just the idea of aura and photos and energy, it resonates so deeply. And my mom, like we've spoken this language for so long, and it's really cool. So how does your mom, what does your mom do? What was her influence on you as a kid, and even now?
Hmm. Yeah. So they were into, what is the word I'm looking for? I don't know. They had this like, my parents had this side business which was all about health,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it had a lot to do with sales and health. And a component of that was amplifying your sales.
Mm-hmm.
And they were led into The Secret, which is hilarious because
Mm-hmm.
that's like an amazing starting point. And
Yeah.
I remember that they would listen to that on like cassette tapes.
Mm-hmm.
And me being like, I'm curious, but like, what is this? And so I never really explored it
Mm-hmm.
then. But my mom and dad have always been into that. But it's almost like it came through me to take it into this realm and into this step, right? Like my mom's not to the public a spiritual teacher,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like she isn't a healer, even though she is. Like in the public eye, she's a speech therapist, right? But you know what I'm saying? Like
My
she
mom, yeah.
is,
She's like the
yeah,
work is always happening. Like just her being around people, she's doing the work, and people don't know. People don't. I mean, they'll feel it, but they don't know, and it's not reciprocated
right.
with money or any of that regard. But she's always doing the work. So absolutely.
Right. And so what I'm saying is she influenced me and it led me onto the path of where I am today where I now get to teach this work
Mm,
like in the public.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm,
Instead of behind the scenes.
yeah.
Because so many of us are like deeply embodied in this work
Mm,
and a lot of us are doing it behind the scenes,
yeah.
not in the public eye,
Mm,
right? And not allowing ourselves to be seen in this work because we're operating out of our safety identity.
absolutely. And I think especially, it's almost like the older generation, there was a lot of resistance from the public because we didn't have as much of an understanding of to this metaphysical space, this world. And there's a great movement happening, and I think us and then our children and then their children, like there's this age of awakening happening with like coming in with
Yeah.
crystal children and different ways in individuals, and it's really exciting to see how things continue to take off. But it's just like she's passing it down to you, and you're gonna 100% pass it down to your kids, and likewise.
Mhm.
That's really exciting and really cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and I think like a big part of this, like for me, my mission really truly feels like everyone and those listening, it's like you came here to make a big effing impact on the world. And you know, like deep in your bones and your being and your soul and your cells that you're meant for something more. Right. And so, like, whatever it is that you're being led to do, go there,
Mhm.
go there. And it's going to feel scary and it's going to feel uncomfortable because it's unknown and unfamiliar to you. Because what's known and what's familiar is this, like what we see, what we're doing in our lives, in our business, in our career, right? And some of us feel this huge pull to go in a totally different direction, and we don't allow ourselves to go there because of so many reasons, but because it's unknown and unfamiliar and we don't know the outcome,
Mhm.
right? But I know that everyone who's listening to your podcast is like, I know I'm meant for something more. I
Mhm.
know I'm meant to make a huge effing impact on the world. And like my message for you that's coming through right now is to just whatever it is that you're receiving, that you're hearing, that you're feeling, that you're knowing, like that pool, take that soul aligned action. Take that soul aligned action. Because the more that you deny that, the more that you're denying yourself, you're denying your soul, you're denying who you came here to be.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I've heard you in one of your other episodes, talk about the intuition and also talking about ego and kind of going along the
Mm-hmm.
lines of trusting that voice, trusting your gut. How do you distinguish between intuition, that gut feeling, that channel, and the ego?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So for me specifically, and I think this is true for a lot of us, ego is like so loud
Mhm.
and so demanding and so like overpowering that we get confused and we think that that's our intuition. We think that that's our inner voice. We think that that's where we're supposed to go. And your intuition is so all knowing that it can come in like that and it can come in so quietly and so gently, right? But because we're so used to that, like, no, don't do that, do this. And that, like,
Mhm.
over analyzing everything, right? That's your ego. And that's like your mental concept trying to keep you safe. So if you can just allow yourself to quiet down and listen, your intuition comes in really quickly, really swiftly, and really quietly,
Mhm.
right? It's not as loud as our ego, but the more that we practice listening to it, the louder it will become,
Yeah.
right? And then we'll allow ourselves to follow our intuition. But I truthfully believe that so many of us are like, teach me how to be intuitive, teach me how to connect to my intuition. This took me a long time to realize, but you already know how to connect to your intuition.
Mhm.
You already are intuitive. You just haven't allowed yourself to be. You haven't given yourself the permission slip to follow your intuition,
Mhm. Yeah. And do you,
right?
yeah, I mean, like we say, everyone has their own way in. It's kind of like meditation. Meditation isn't just sitting down in stillness. You can meditate when you're doing the dishes, when you're doing laundry, when you're at the gym. Everything is
Yeah.
bringing mindfulness and presence to it. But do you have a specific way for you in regards to channeling, but also intuition, where you find that that voice is so clear? Is that being out in nature? Is that through meditation or any other practice that you find is helpful for you?
Hmm. My practice is speaking.
Mm.
Which is like so weird because that's such a it's not weird, but I'm using weird as a loving term here.
Mm.
It's interesting because speaking is being seen,
Mm.
right? And when we're practicing something, we're like, "Oh my God, I'm embarrassed. I don't want anyone to see me." But
Mm.
you can practice channeling, connecting to your intuition, connecting to your source, or connecting to source by being by yourself and just talking out loud.
Mm.
Right. And I think a lot of us don't allow ourselves to do that. We don't allow ourselves to sing out loud, even if we're alone. We don't allow ourselves to talk out loud because we labeled that as crazy. Oh my
Mm.
God, I'm so crazy. I'm talking to myself. I'm singing to myself. But like, if that's how you connect to your intuition, to yourself, to your soul, to your source, or to the source, do it.
Mm.
Allow yourself to do it.
Yeah.
So for me, a big practice is just letting myself speak.
Mm.
Speak out loud. That's how I channel. That's how I feel really plugged in to my power, to my truth. Being outside in nature, oh, everything, everything. Just being
Mm.
outside by myself, sometimes, with my kids, little ones running around. I'm holding the baby, just standing there, feeling the sun on my skin. Oh, this is everything,
Yeah.
right? Just like little moments,
Mm.
little moments. It doesn't have to be meditating for 10 hours
Yeah.
like you said, right? Just allowing yourself to take little moments to connect to anything that feels greater than you, to
Mm.
connect to God, universe, source, angels, guides, because ultimately you're then connecting to yourself.
Yeah, I love that so much. It makes me think of like The Path of Least Resistance by Abraham Hicks. I don't know, are you familiar with Abraham Hicks? The-
Oh,
yeah,
yes, my love.
the amazing channeler. And
Yeah.
this idea of the conditioning is so real and so intense, especially growing up in a kind of the education system where you're kind of placed in labels and boxes and told to do this, told to do that. I was watching this video of it was like a jar of gnats. All these gnats were just, bouncing around in this jar, and there was a lid over it, and they couldn't escape the jar because they're in there, and there's this restriction there. And then they're in there for a certain amount of time, and then they take the lid off, and the gnats can fly freely, but they don't because they're conditioned that way. And I always find, like
Yes.
you're talking about, where I'm in a room by myself and there's nobody that's gonna yell at me, there's nobody that's gonna judge me, nobody that's gonna criticize me, but I feel restriction in my body because the conditioning was there. Because that one time someone said my nose looked funny, that one time that someone said I wasn't
Yep.
athletic or I wasn't talented, and we restrict ourselves. So it's just really us not giving ourselves permission because of a past quote unquote truth, which isn't actually even true because it's a projection of someone else. So it's all about really, like, at this age, is breaking the conditioning that was given to us, which is why I think, like, as we grow through generations, like our parents is pretty intense. Us, like my youth, I had to deal with it, and then like we, in this space, stepping in, doing the work, which is an intense road to get to, and then we lead by example for our kids. So day one, they have more of an awareness, but they'll still have their struggles and ups and downs, and then they'll pass it on. And it's breaking that conditioning is, like, I feel like slowly how we step into our power and our truth. And for me, when I never experienced that, something's off, but you can't put your finger on it, and it just feels life isn't
Yes.
aligned and things aren't clicking. And then you go through the journey, the darkness, the pain, the suffering, the struggles, to step into your truth, and the freedom is worth $1 million. It's worth more than anything you can offer. So
Yes.
I think that's huge. And yeah. Whew. Now I want to hear, what is your first manifestation story? Because you're a manifestation coach. I'm sure there was one time where maybe did you even know the term manifestation when something led to another and you're like, oh my God, this just happened. I just manifested this. Or, when you were young, that led to down the road. Now you're doing this for a living. But that first moment where you're like, oh my God, this is possible.
I think this is really funny, actually. I don't think I've shared this before, so this is cool. My first memory of manifesting, I think I was 12, and I got this thing in the mail where it was like junior pageant or whatever. I don't remember what it was called, but I got this thing in the
Mhm.
mail to like be in a pageant. And it wasn't a Miss America thing, but it was like a junior one. And I just remember getting so excited by that, so lit up. And I had a visual of myself like being on stage, wearing a dress, getting all pretty. And I was like, I'm doing this. I'm going to do this. And it wasn't like it was kind of expensive at the time, and
Mhm.
my parents were like, "We're not gonna pay for this, like, you can get" what was it? You basically had to ask your parents and family for, like, money to
Mhm.
support you to be entered into the pageant, which I could have looked at that at 12 years old and been like, "Well, that's really hard, I'm not gonna do that." But I was led by the vision of me being on stage in this dress with my hair curled, and I was like, "This sounds fun. Of course I can ask people for money. I'm gonna do this." And it was like, God, I don't remember the price, but again, at that time at 12 years old, it was, like, expensive, but I got the effing money. I called
Mhm.
all of my, family members, like, I made it happen, and then there I was on stage, like, nervous as fuck, totally out of my element. But
Mhm.
I did it, like, I was on stage in this pageant, and no, I didn't know what manifestation meant at that time at all, but what's cool to reflect back on that is I was led by a vision. I was led by a feeling, and
Mhm.
there was a lot of components that made it hard to happen, like in logic and Newtonian physics, but I'm like, "Fuck it. I'm
Mhm.
being led by the quantum."
Yeah.
Now I know, but I didn't know that then. So,
Mhm.
yeah, that was my first experience that I know of.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now,
Yeah, it's
throughout the
funny.
journey, I always find there are, like, pillars, like, that get you. I always look at life almost like a game. I feel like this one season, this, whether that's a month, whether that's a year, we're kind of working through, or a couple years, working through this. And once we overcome that, then it's like, all right, now this next chapter, this next level, we have a new challenge. And like new levels bring new devils. You know,
Mhm.
as we continue to reach the success that we want, new obstacles continue to emerge. And throughout that evolution, that process, we're constantly learning, we're constantly failing, and then we're learning from the failures. And I feel like in a lot of those different seasons, we have different mentors and they show up in different ways, whether that could be seeing an ant. Like I had this great lesson from like an ant, like a bunch of ants in a hill. Like I learned about life through that. And like that was like an incredible mentor. Sometimes
Love
we
that.
learn from our kids, sometimes we learn it's our parents, sometimes it's a stranger, a homeless person, or like an actual teacher or mentor in that way. So if you want to share just who are some mentors that, and like it could be through books as well, and videos, but who were
Mhm.
some mentors along the way that kind of guided you when you were in dark moments, that lifted you up or just have been with you throughout the whole process?
So I would say my favorite mentors are Abraham Hicks.
Mhm.
Love her, them, Dr. Joe Dispenza, into all of his work, have all of his books. Love him. And then a few other coaches who I've worked with throughout the years to support
Mhm.
me. I don't want to say have to be, but what I found, I'm drawn to those who are deeply connected to the quantum, deeply connected to energetics,
Mhm.
right? And deeply connected to creating new neural pathways
Yeah.
to reprogram your subconscious, to decondition and to unlearn everything that we've been taught up until now.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I have like along the way 5 different coaches who I really, resonated with who are embodied in that work.
That's amazing. That's huge.
Yeah.
Now I want to talk about, this is like a big word in the growth space, but boundaries. And in regards to the idea of a lot of people that I meet who are in, the quote unquote spiritual path, the spiritual journey, there's always the talk of it's a lonely journey, because you're kind of starting off in the box and you're in middle school and like conformity is like the most important thing in the world and fitting in is really important.
Mm,
And for me, from like personal experience, I was in a group and while even though I was with 10, 15, 20, however many people, I felt so lonely. And then
mhm,
so it was this interesting thing to navigate, and then you start going off in your path and stepping into your truth while you're on your own, but you feel like you're being guided. So it is like a lonely journey, but you have these different elements in regard to it, but you're stepping away and you're setting boundaries from things that aren't serving you anymore and leading you to where you are now. So like growing up and having those people, like that girl saying that one terrible thing that led to that whole story, that kind of sticks with us for so long. So what boundaries, I feel like, did you set along the way? Was that like cutting off cords with people or certain
mm,
habits? And have you experienced like the lonely journey and like going through that? And then are you still on that, or have you found your tribe, found your group of people, and what that kind of looks like?
I love this question. Yeah, and see, the thing is, so many of us, as we're coming back home to ourselves, it does feel lonely because we're so conditioned to be like, do this with your life and do these things and be like programmed by society. And the moment that you start to step out of that box, you feel alone because 98% of people are following that societal program path,
Mhm.
right? Which means 2% of people are living life on their own terms. That's a very small amount, right? And so I remember when I came into this work on my spiritual journey, which really did start with like yoga teacher training, I just remember allowing myself to be open. And when you allow yourself to be open and vulnerable, you connect with the right people, right?
Mhm.
Because I think that most of us feel lonely and alone when we're not expressing our desires, we're not expressing our truth, and we're being quiet and being in our safety identity, right? Keeping ourselves safe, protecting ourselves. That's when we feel alone because we're not being truthful to ourselves.
Mhm.
And thankfully, I learned that at a younger age, but I didn't integrate that right away. And I learned a lot of lessons, right? And I kept a lot of friendships that were unaligned because I felt bad. Because it's like, well, I've been friends with them for 10 years. So I need to continue this friendship. No, you don't, right?
Mhm.
You don't owe yourself, your energy, your sacred energy to anyone. If anything feels unaligned and a friendship or a romantic relationship isn't supporting you and empowering you and like you know, allowing your growth and expansion that your soul came for, then it's a no, right? And that's okay. And it's hard, but it feels so good to let go of friendships that are like energetically draining
Mhm.
and to let go of relationships that have been keeping you in your safety identity because that's not what your soul came here to do and to create. So with boundaries, communication is everything, right? Allow yourself to communicate your needs. Allow yourself to communicate what feels good and what doesn't feel good. Because those who are going to reciprocate and hold space for it, amazing. Those who can't, well, I can teach them how to hold boundaries
Mhm.
or hold space for me. Or if they're incapable and they're not nourishing or supporting my growth, then it's okay to release them and let them go. Right. But like the moment that you're truthful with yourself and allow yourself to know who you are, you can communicate your needs and desires from there. And that's how you set boundaries.
Mhm.
But it all starts with knowing who you are.
Yeah. And how do you go through a journey of knowing thyself?
Oh, man. So here's a quick little nugget of how to start. Because there are different layers in knowing yourself and coming back home to your soul. But the most powerful thing that I have found is to follow your curiosities.
Mm.
Anything that's pulling you in a direction that you're like, ooh, I don't know why, but this crystal's calling my name. I don't know why, but this book keeps coming my way. I saw it 3 times now. Get the crystal, get the book, do the
Mm.
thing that you're curious about because they're like energetic breadcrumbs that are going to lead you back home to you and back home to your soul. So allow yourself to be curious and
Mm.
be led by your curiosity. That's how you're going to find your way back home to you and get to know who the fuck you are and who you came here to be.
I love that. That was perfect. That was amazing. Now, when you were in college, did you know when you were out that you wanted to do teacher training? Was it like what was your major when you were going through university?
It first was a math teacher because I love math. And
Mm.
then I was doing that for a semester and I was like, I hate this. I
Mhm.
hate this. And then I switched to business and that felt like totally great and aligned. I always knew I wanted to do something holistic,
Mhm.
right? So I got like my holistic health coaching certification and went there. When I moved to Colorado, yoga teacher training came my way from an ad that popped up on the computer when I was at work.
Mhm.
And I was like, "What's this?" And I was curious and I was led and it was like pricey at the time and I was like, "Fuck it. This is calling my name," and I did it. And from there, it has opened doors and led me to where I am and it's going to continue to lead me to where I'm going.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. Now, w- so you got into yoga teacher training, and now you're a manifestation
Mhm.
coach. You're multifaceted, and you've talked about a bunch of different practices that you have for your Badass Babe community. So, what kind of
Mhm.
practices do you, outside of having genuine conversations and connecting with souls, but what kind of, tangible, practical practices do you use with your clients and just that you've developed over the years?
Yes. Okay, so I have a method called the abundance DNA method.
Mm.
And what that entails to manifest your abundant AF life or business is, and then I'll tell you the tools in a second, is creating new money making neural pathways because most of us are operating out of lack,
Mhm.
right? And then to shift into abundance neural pathways, your reticular activating system is going to show you, oh, this is how you can create more abundance, more success, more what it is that you desire for yourself.
Mhm.
Step 2 is shifting out of Newtonian physics logic, which I shared a tiny bit,
Mhm.
into the quantum field, which you're very familiar with,
Mhm.
making moves and aligned action from there. And then step 3 is regulating your wealth encoding where it feels safe receiving more,
Mhm.
being more, having more. And when I say more, it's whatever that is for you. Abundance, money, wealth, success, love, joy, F yes,
Mhm.
right? So within that, the tools that I use are EFT tapping, emotional freedom technique, hypnosis, love hypnosis because we love to reprogram our subconscious mind in our sleep. I also use NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming,
Mhm.
neural energetic encoding. I could keep going.
Yeah.
Meditation as well, but these are my like top tools that I use to help to reprogram the subconscious
Mhm.
and to create the life and business that your soul came here to live and lead.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I'm multifaceted. That's amazing. Now I've seen NFT tapping from like a Heal documentary, and I've also done it myself just through you're tapping the different what is it? It's not chakra points. Is it more of an acupuncture thing, right?
Yep,
Yeah. And
your
then
energetic meridian lines.
yes, and then you're tapping into speaking subconsciously to talk to your subconscious to reprogram old limiting beliefs. And I think it's such a powerful practice, and it's a very pretty simple one that we can all do on a daily basis. So I would love if you feel called to go through just a quick, what would that look like? Like for our audience member, they're sitting down, they're not driving, they're in a safe environment, but could you guide us
Mhm.
through an NFT tapping session?
Yes, of course I can. Um, I'm gonna I know that we're on video now, but this will be on audio, so I'm gonna lead you through where the points are. And so let me just give a quick rundown. EFT is emotional freedom technique,
Mm,
right? And whenever we are stepping into the unknown and expanding, a lot of us have negative emotions associated with a past experience that didn't go well or turn out the way that we desired. And so, from a past experience, we have negative emotions associated with it that have been unprocessed and unresolved and stored in our bodies, where then we don't feel safe stepping out of our comfort zone. We
mm,
don't feel safe being seen. We don't feel safe manifesting more for ourselves,
mm,
right? So, let's see what's coming through here. I'm going to do an EFT tapping session for expanding
mm.
and manifesting and maybe being seen. I don't know, maybe aligning with
Fantastic.
your soul purpose. So we'll see what comes through. So we're going to start tapping on the outer edge of our hand here, like a karate point. Yep, karate point chop. Just begin to tap. And then you can repeat out loud after me, even though at times
Even though at times
mhm, I doubt myself.
I doubt myself.
I don't believe that my desires are capable.
I don't believe that my desires are capable.
I don't believe that my desires are possible
I don't believe that my desires are possible
for me to achieve,
for me to achieve,
for me to have,
for me to have,
and for me to hold
and for me to hold,
because they didn't work out in the past.
because they didn't work out in the past.
And even though I have those thoughts,
And even though I have those thoughts,
feelings, and emotions,
feelings, and emotions,
I deeply and completely
I deeply and completely
love,
love,
accept,
accept,
and forgive myself.
and forgive myself.
Yes. So now we're going to tap in the positive. Move to the crown of your head. You can double tap if you'd like. It is safe for me to manifest my desires.
It is safe for me to manifest my desires.
Mhm. It is safe for me to have more.
It is safe for me to have more.
Yeah. Move to your eyebrows, like right where your eyebrows start, and tap there. I am capable of receiving more.
I am capable of receiving more.
My desires are possible.
My desires are possible.
Yeah. Move to your temples, right next to your eyes. My desires want me as much as I want them.
My desires want me as much as I want them.
Yes. It is safe for me to receive.
It is safe for me to receive.
It is safe for me to grow.
It is safe for me to grow.
Move underneath your eyes and tap there. It is safe for me to be seen.
It is safe for me to be seen.
I allow myself to step out of my comfort zone.
I allow myself to step outside of my comfort zone.
Yep. Tap underneath your nose, right above your lip, right here. I allow myself to follow my curiosities.
I allow myself to follow my curiosities.
My curiosities are leading me back home.
My curiosities are leading me back home.
Yep. Tap underneath your mouth and that crease of your chin. Mhm. Leading me back home to myself,
Leading me back home to myself,
to my soul,
to my soul,
to the truth of who I am.
to the truth of who I am.
Yep. Move to your collarbones. And being in my truth,
And being in my truth,
I make aligned moves from here.
I make aligned moves from here.
Life responds to me.
Life responds to me.
Abundance responds to me.
Abundance responds to me.
My manifestations come to me.
My manifestations come to me.
Yeah. And then move to your wrists right here, like so. I allow myself to be powerful.
I allow myself to be powerful.
I allow myself to be me.
I allow myself to be me.
I love myself.
I love myself.
I respect myself.
I respect myself.
I honor myself.
I honor myself.
And I believe in myself.
And I believe in myself.
I believe it is easy for me
I believe it is easy for me
to receive all of my desires
to receive all of my desires
and so much more.
and so much more.
Yes. And then bring your hands on your body wherever feels really good for you, heart, sacral, whatever. Breathe into this vibration that you just created. Take an inhale in through your nose. And open mouth, exhale, sigh it out. And just notice the shift of energy that you just created and that you feel within your body, and allow yourself to make moves from this state, from this frequency.
Hmm. That's so fun. It's so
EFT.
just calms the whole nervous system down. It's like a form of qigong.
Mhm.
Uh, you feel so
Yes.
relaxed. It's so
Yes.
open and warm and
So
welcome. You
good.
feel the love. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
That's so exciting.
Yes.
And now you're such a natural at facilitating that. It's not easy, and you've been doing it a long time. But as a leader, as a teacher in many spaces, I've heard you talk about this idea. I think all of us have experienced this concept of imposter syndrome and
Mm.
what that means for you and what your experiences are with that from the very beginning when you have almost no experience and you're stepping in and you're getting your first client. Does it, and you've been doing this for
Mhm.
years now, do you still feel it at times as you continue to elevate
Mhm.
and grow your business? So what does that just term and idea mean and feel for you?
Yes. So I love this question. I still feel imposter syndrome, right? But the difference is that I don't let it control me or define who I am and what I'm capable of, right? It's just a feeling. Imposter syndrome is just a feeling, and that's it. It doesn't need to continue to go beyond that. And what we do and what I have done is you feel imposter syndrome because you're comparing yourself to other people. And then from there, you pull in a meaning. Well, I feel imposter syndrome, which means I'm not good enough, which means I need to do more, which means I need to push, force, right? And it takes us right into this frequency that's just completely out of alignment. And
Mm-hmm.
it takes us right into lack and right into, well, I'm feeling imposter syndrome. So now there's a problem. Now there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
There was never a problem. You just made it a problem, right? So
Right.
like when you're doing something new and stepping out of your comfort zone, you're going to feel imposter syndrome. You're a human and that's just what we do. Can you see it as it's just a feeling? It's just a feeling and it doesn't need to go beyond that. It has no control over me. I can feel it, I can honor it, I can see it, witness it, and then I can let it be released or I can let it just sit next to me. It can come along with me, but it's not me. It's not who I am. I'm not a fucking imposter. I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of, and I'm going to allow myself to effing do it because that's how I grow. That's how I expand. That's how I learn. Right.
Mhm.
And when you can see it as just a feeling, you can allow yourself to continue and you can see yourself as the expert, as the leader,
Mhm.
as the skilled, soulful being that you are. You're
Mhm.
not an imposter. And you can make that decision every single time that you feel it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And the action speaks volumes in it. We're all so capable. And
Mm,
for me, like in this journey as an actor, and I hear it all the time with so many of my friends. And one of the things that's actually helped me is the podcasting space and community, because now we have
mhm,
an invitation into the conversation, into the room with people who are at the spaces that maybe we aspire to be. And you hear them share their truth, share their story. Like before we had this access to readily available information with social media, with podcasting, everyone, we only saw a version of themselves. And even it's funny, in social media we still only see like the version of themselves, but we really only saw
yeah.
like one side. And now we're able to hear the truth of the struggle. Like hearing Viola Davis talk about imposter syndrome is like, she is, if anyone's worthy of not saying she has imposter syndrome, it's her in that world. But she
Mhm.
still does. I think everyone experiences it in their own different ways. And just
Yeah.
dealing with that fear and getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, is huge, is huge. So, and that's
Huge.
also,
Yeah.
it's super vulnerable. And I know vulnerability is such a big word in this space, and it's used a lot. And I'm just curious what your relationship is with fear, with discomfort, and also with vulnerability.
Mhm. I love all of the above.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I worked on. I love fear. I
Yeah.
love discomfort and I love vulnerability. We were just taught to not love it, to hate it, and to shame ourselves and criticize ourselves if we felt any of the above. But again, like you're a soul who came here to have a human experience. And as a human, you're going to feel feelings that are uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're going to have moments where you're like, holy shit, I'm scared. I'm doing something I haven't done, right? You're going to have moments where you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't share this and I should keep this to myself. But I'm telling you, your power lies in vulnerability. Your
Mm-hmm.
power lies in the fear. Your power lies in the discomfort, right? And again, it's like I can feel the fear and just take it the fuck with me. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to like have this meaning around it. And I don't have to label myself as someone who can't do it because they're fearful,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I make moves every single day with excitement and F yes, and also fear, right? And I love that. I love that because fear to me is an indicator I'm doing something new. I'm stepping out of my comfort zone, right? And that's okay. But
Yeah.
it's like seeing fear, discomfort, and vulnerability in a new light and creating a new relationship with it, where
Mm-hmm.
it's not like, oh, I hate it. Get away from me. It's like, let me just embrace you
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay. And it's helping me to move and to take that aligned action to grow.
Yeah. And did you always have that perspective on like fear and failure and
No,
discomfort? Mm-hmm.
no,
What was
not at
the
all.
Yeah, what was the steps that were taken? Because I think there's like a gap between where we were and where we want to be. And in that
Mhm,
journey, we're always falling back, but with awareness and mindfulness and dedication and hard work and all the good stuff, we slowly build up to that point where we build this new habit, and the old self kind of isn't, we don't make those same mistakes that we're making. Breaking the habit of being yourself, Dr.
mhm.
Joe Dispenza changed my life, and he talks about that a lot. What was that
Yes.
transition like for you from changing that story around fear? And for me, I like failure was a big one as well. The idea of
Oh,
failing,
yeah.
the worst thing in the world. And now I can just reframe it. It's failure is the most beautiful thing that can almost happen to us in so many ways, because it's the fastest way to grow. It's the fastest way to learn. And you're not going to make those mistakes. Most likely big ones, like again, like that, because you learned from that and you experienced it personally. You had an emotional attachment to that experience. So for you, what was that kind of the steps along the way, of getting from in the state of fear and having that kind of consume you, and the fear of being vulnerable, to stepping in? Because I know it's
Mhm.
not overnight, but what was that progression like for you?
It it's similar to what I was saying before. It would be like dip your toe in, pull out, dip it in, pull it out, dip it
Mhm.
in. And it's like, oh, I'm so tired of like creating these boring, basic, mediocre results. I don't want to have a boring, basic life. I don't want to
Mhm.
have a boring, basic business. Right. And I began to see like I was keeping myself small. I was hiding, keeping myself safe because of fear.
Mhm.
And it's not that I wasn't moving forward, I was making moves, but it was, like, so small, right? And I got to the point where I'm like, I don't I don't like this. I
Mhm.
don't like this. I don't like the relationship that I have with fear. I don't like creating boring, basic, mediocre results. Like,
Mhm.
I know that I'm meant for more. And then I just began to be like, well, if I don't like this, then I need to do something different. What can I do differently? I get to create a new relationship with fear,
Mhm.
right? So it wasn't like one moment that was like, this is it. It was just me being like, I'm over this and I'm over myself.
Mhm.
I'm over myself. And so I get to do something different.
Yeah, amazing. Now, I'm genuinely curious about this because you lead a badass group of babes, right? With a strong
Yeah.
community of women. And in my like kind of journey, I got into this online business where I was in a community of individuals where we were selling these water machines, these Kangen water machines, and that was the first time I was in a group of people who spoke the same language. That's actually where I got introduced to Abraham Hicks, where I was saying like paganism's
Oh,
cool, you know, and
yeah.
we spoke the same language. I got introduced to my first emotional intelligence class through them, and it was 90 like 8% woman, you know. And I grew up with two
Mhm.
sisters. I grew up with a strong mother, so I have been surrounded by so many strong women and constantly navigating the balance between the masculine and feminine because there's this idea of like men are now tapping too much into their feminine, like women are now overcompensating and getting too masculine to like rise above and they need to tap back into their feminine. So I guess for you, what was the journey of just balancing masculine and feminine when you were younger and then where you're at now and then how you kind
Mhm.
of approach that with your community?
Mhm. This is a very layered question because I can go in a lot of different directions, but I think the easiest way for me to explain this is because we can get really caught up in the masculine and the feminine, right?
Mm,
For me, I just like to look as like at yourself as an indicator. Am I giving too much? Am I giving? Am I giving where I feel so depleted, right? And
mhm,
so you get to see, oh my God, I'm like leaning towards the giving mode where I feel so depleted. I'm not allowing myself to receive,
mhm,
not allowing myself to receive. And you know, like the masculine, the feminine, the giving, the receiving, the inhale, the exhale, it's like all that fluid movement. And so the best, easiest way for me to explain this that we can grasp is what direction are you leaning towards? You know, are you giving too much where you feel like you have nothing to then give to yourself and you're run down and burn out? Or, which this is rare, am I receiving too much? I'm laughing because it's so conditioned and programmed within us to overgive until we
mhm,
deplete, where we then don't even allow ourselves to receive. And receiving is so feminine and it's so beautiful,
mhm,
right? So I teach a lot of unlearning around your ability of receiving
mhm.
because a lot of us like shoo away confident or compliments,
Yeah.
right? And so you get to use yourself, your body as an indicator. What direction am I leaning towards? Giving, receiving. How can I come back into balance? How can I come back into flow? And so it's not that I don't like to view it as masculine and feminine, but I like to view it as use your body as an indicator, as where you are coming into balance. Because most of us are operating in the masculine where we need to do,
Mhm,
right? Where then we shut off our feminine
mhm,
or the opposite.
mhm,
Where does it feel good for you to come into balance? And this is something that's so unique to everyone. It's so unique to everyone. You know what I mean? But if you can unlearn any meaning, stories, beliefs, patterns that you placed around your ability to receive, When you can break free from that is when you can tap more into your feminine,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because most women are doing and tapped into their masculine because that's logic, that's programmed within us. How would it feel good and safe for you to receive, to lean more towards the feminine,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's a very personal response for everyone.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And our bodies are so intelligent, and they
Mhm.
know, and we just gotta listen to.
Mhm.
Wow, there's so
Yeah.
much again to even unpack. You're just full of so much knowledge and wisdom, and I'm so blessed to have you on here. We could talk
Yeah.
forever, but I want to slowly start to wrap it up. So now
Yes.
for the future, we went through the present, banged out the past a little bit, and now for the future. If you had, even if you have a vision board or a mood board, of feelings and emotions that you want to experience, or certain goals if you wanted to share, um, what would that look like for you? Visions, dreams, goals, ambitions, what that future kind of looks and feels like for you.
Yes. It's funny. I actually have that on my journal from this morning. I have this vision of me speaking on stage. That's that's where I'm at. So
Mm,
that is my goal. That's where I'm being led. That's coming through from the quantum. I'm speaking on stage. I'm teaching this work. And the frequencies associated with that are all knowingness, proud, empowered. Yeah, fuck yes, light
mm,
free. So that's where I'm going.
mm,
Expanding the podcast, expanding this work, and just allowing this message to be spread even more to even more people and even more women. So that's my vision right now. It's right here. Came through
that's
from the
beautiful.
quantum.
That's beautiful, and it's happening
Mhm.
one day at a time, one step at a time. It's
Happening.
aligning. It's very exciting to
Yeah.
see. All right, now I got a final few rapid fire-ish questions, but take your time with it. Whatever feels right, whatever feels that's being called in. So, what is your favorite form of expression in this world of art and creative expression in different ways?
Speaking.
Speaking, great answer. What is the book that changed your life? If you were gonna not even recommend, we could do both. One that you would recommend to someone who's maybe stuck or struggling right now, but one that at a certain moment, at a certain time in your life that you read and received, and it was just mind blowing for you. What was that one book?
Oh my. Any of Dr. Joe Dispenza's books,
Mm-hmm.
books from Abraham Hicks, just whatever one is speaking to you, go for that.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I have to ask, what's your sign?
Oh my God, Leo. Hello.
Leo. Hey. What's your favorite practice? You talked about a few mindfulness practices, but and it's a sin to even like choose one over the other. But what is your favorite one that you go back to?
Mm, placing my hands over my heart and being in the abundance frequency, just feeling the frequency, the emotional state associated with my desires.
Beautiful. And what is bringing you the most joy right now?
Hmm. This is a challenging question to answer because I'm like, oh my God, I could list off 11 things.
Mm,
But really, it's allowing myself to be me,
yeah,
allowing myself to be me.
absolutely. And finally, for anyone listening, who's feeling a little stuck, feeling a little confused, they have ideas of what their future looks like, but it just hasn't panned out the way that they wanted to. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to that person listening today?
Your past doesn't define you, and your past doesn't dictate what you are capable of creating for yourself. You're the one who gets to see that. And you're the one who gets to no longer identify from your past, make moves from your past, and just show up from the version of yourself who you know who you are, right?
Yeah,
And make aligned action from there and take the aligned action, even though it's uncomfortable, even though there's so much fear, even though you feel imposter syndrome. Do it. Take that aligned action because that's going to open up everything that you desire for yourself and what your soul came here to create.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Stunning, amazing. Kelly, thank you so much for being here. You're an actual legend. I'm so glad we connected. I'm so glad to continue to watch you blossom, and I'll see you on stage one of these days. It's gonna be amazing. The work you're doing is it's amazing, and it's changing so many lives, not just for women but for men as well, and the men in the women's lives. Like it's amazing. Now, for the audience listening, where can they find you? They've learned and so much from today, but where can they continue to follow you, to support you, to potentially, if they are a woman here, join the community, join the love, and continue to get your knowledge and wisdom?
Yes. So come over to my Instagram at _badass babe. You can plug into the podcast, Badass Babe Manifest. But yeah, connect with me on Instagram because that's where I'm most active. And there's lots of free courses and goodies there that you can dive into.
You heard it. All right,
Mm.
Kelly, thank you so much for being here. You're a legend. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. This is so much fun. Yes.